I thought what you said was pretty interesting, that the most unhappy you've been in your life was when there were these transition periods where you were pursuing something you really were ambitious about, and then something happened so that you could no longer pursue those ambitions, and then you were trying to figure out what's next.
Yeah.
So to me, I can relate. I graduated in 2014 with a degree in English, and since then I've just been trying to figure out what I want to do with that degree. And so I can relate to that unhappiness, being an ambitious person and not knowing where to go next. It's very painful, basically, because you feel like you have this potential and it's being wasted.
So in the last video we just recorded, I mentioned in passing that I felt the most unhappy in my own life. The greatest misery I experienced tended to be at times when I was separated from having a clear sense of ambition and purpose in my life. So Melissa was just responding to that by saying that that's something she struggled with for years. Now, about how many years? Basically since you finished your BA?
Yeah.
Or during your BA, right?
During the BA, too.
Yeah, because the BA is in English, right?
Yeah, which wasn't my original goal when I started undergrad. So
right. And then, well, look, I mean, it's no joke, but I mean, so already once you had switched your major to English, then you were in this trap of saying, well, what career can I have, and how can I make a positive difference in the world, and what's my future going to be? What's the meaning of life, given that I'm an English major? And you basically never found an answer to that question. Now, jumping ahead, right now, ironically, you've ended up in one of the very few career paths that does value your English degree, and where you are valued as a scarce form of labor, being an English teacher in Asia, teaching English to Chinese people. But just as ironically, you're completely aware that this isn't your career. This is just something you're doing transitionally, right?
Yeah, and this is a time that a lot of people that I talk to, they say it'll be a great experience for me.
Yeah.
But it's also a little bit strange feeling like you're in limbo. Feeling like this is not really going anywhere. Yeah. Even though it is a good experience, even though I'm happy,
Well, look, I mean, financially and otherwise, I think the only justification for being here doing this is one's own education. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, you have already picked up quite a few words of Chinese without formally studying Chinese. Mm-hmm. I just said formerly instead of formally.
Formally.
Without formally studying. It's both are true, though. She has neither formally nor formally studied Chinese. But, you are adding Chinese words to your vocabulary every week. And for me also, I'm just practicing coping and communicating in Chinese day in and day out. But I think there is absolutely no other justification. And I even felt that way when I was in Taiwan. It was like, basically, if you're not here as a student, you shouldn't be here as a teacher. I mean, to put it in a nutshell, right? Like, I agree. Like, teaching ESL, for you at least, it's not a career. I'm not going to say it's not a career for anybody. There's somebody on planet Earth for whom it really is their career. But, one of the things I said to her when I was inviting her to come over, I said to you many times, I said, look, you don't have to study Chinese. It's a choice. I just think you should learn enough so that you understand the choice you're making. If you close the door in Chinese and say, not for me, fine. I totally respect that decision. But you have to know enough to understand, what the advantages and disadvantages are, what the decisions you make. You have to understand the opportunity you're missing, the opportunity you're passing up, right?
Yeah.
But let's keep it all the way real. You said there's a feeling of being cut off from something, from a real ambition or a real direction, right? But right now, back in the States, you're not cut off from something. It's not, you didn't have a career. It's not like she quit, being a heart surgeon at the hospital or something. You didn't, right? No. And if you quit your job now in China and went back to the States, there's really nothing there in terms of career or education or anything else for you to pick up, right?
Yeah.
No offense. Yeah.
None taken. Since I graduated, I was taking classes for speech-language pathology. Yeah. That is something that I've been interested in. So I could pick up on that and apply for graduate school. Right. But that is something that I've been ambivalent about and not willing to commit. I could have committed a year after I graduated, and I didn't.
Fundamentally, you decided that the nature of the work was not that fun.
Yeah, right.
Well, okay, look, I was just going to talk about, so this feeling being cut off was like, I can talk about exactly what I feel cut off from. And I said this to another professor today. I was talking to another professor on the bus on the way back from work, on the way back from the university. I just said to him straight up, I feel cut off from politics. That in Canada, I can participate in politics, including vegan politics, that I'm especially interested in. Yeah. But anything, human rights politics, war politics, city hall politics, the politics over whether or not the mayor is going to build a new bridge. Like we have, there's small politics like that as well as global politics. And I said to him, which is not lying, I said, here in China, I respect that this is your country. I don't pretend to be involved in Chinese politics. I keep my distance. Which is both wise and appropriate. If you're a foreigner living in China, it's not your fight. It's not your quarrel. But sure, I feel like here. I mean, just today, I got an email from one of my students. So one of my students at the university who just started watching my YouTube channel, and I sent her the link to one of my videos that is indeed about veganism. I mean, but I didn't send her a video about something else. And she was like, yeah, I'm enjoying your channel. That's as far as I go. With, I tell people verbally I'm vegan here, but there's absolutely no prospect for activism. But in terms of career, I mean, is that the feeling of being cut off? I mean, is that what it is? I mean, open-ended. I don't know. I mean, because the political side of it, or even ecological, just talk about ecology, right? Everywhere else in China is a fucking ecological disaster except like Dehong and Hainan Island. We're in one of the this is also we're in one of the only places where the air isn't so polluted that you want to hang yourself. Today, one of my students said that she goes jogging every day. This is in class, speaking English. And she wants to in the future continue doing this. And I said, yeah, but after you go back to your hometown, after you go back to any major city in China, whichever major city she's from, once you leave this special place, Dehong, you can't go jogging. It's ecologically impossible. The air is not breathable, right? Same in Beijing, same in so many places, right? Ecology is this huge issue. In Canada, I can be involved with ecological issues. Here I can't. Here I can just stay on mute. That's something to be cut off from. But in terms of career or education or both, what is it you think you're cut off from? Like for 6 months in China?
The Western world.
Yeah.
Speaking English.
Yeah. Yeah.
An actual community, like
sure.
you said, being involved
sure.
in politics in one location.
Sure.
I hope that we do move to Canada. I think that's generally the plan, but I hope to, so that there's a home base. Okay. I guess we've had very different life experiences. Like you haven't had a lot of anchors. You've been traveling around for a long time, basically.
Well, look, see, what's interesting is just before she said that, she started talking about Canada. I was thinking the exact opposite. Because you were talking about being cut off from Western civilization, etc., and then you started talking about Canada. And when you're saying that, it was like, you know what? I think it's because Canada is so bleak that I don't feel that way. Because in Canada, the quality of education is so low. My experience with education is just terrible. The economy is so bleak. Like I don't feel like I'm cut off from opportunities. Because in Canada, in my experience, there's just no opportunity. And I completely concede, like the accent is the same, but if I lived in California, that wouldn't be my perception at all, right? Like in a lot of ways, California is more dangerous than Canada, but there's also real opportunity. There are elite educational institutions, like somebody's getting a great education in California. I don't know, Stanford or some crap. There are at least a few universities that are great at a few different things, right? And my experience in Canada is none of that. So like whether it's now in China or before in Cambodia or something, I can't say I feel like I'm cut off from any kind of opportunity there. Because I know and I'm burdened with the knowledge. This last time going through Canada, I really felt morally obliged, partly out of curiosity, but partly I felt a moral obligation to open every door and look under every rock for every opportunity. So I actually went to the job fairs. I actually went to the dorky, apply for an internship events. And I went through all the paperwork. And to give an example, I went through the whole list of every single scholarship you could apply for. So there's a scholarship in the sense of an award or bursary. And I went into all these offices, like the guidance counselor offices that people never go into. And there's a separate guidance counselor office for international opportunities. And that, there's all this crap. I actually went there and did that stuff. And I came away from it mind blown. Wow, my crappy, ignorant prejudice has been 100% confirmed as right. There's nothing. There are no open doors. There's nothing under that rock. I'm missing nothing here. This is just a country, and in Victoria, BC, this is just a country dominated by a small class of aging millionaires. Retired, wealthy people. And, there's a younger generation here for whom the only opportunities in life are real estate or dealing cocaine. Which is why rap music is so popular. And there's nothing else going on here. There's nothing that I'm missing. So you went to an elite university in the U.S., right? You went to U of M. I mean, it says as a worldwide reputation. I think it ranks on the top 10 lists and the top 100 lists. It's considered a great university, and it's expensive. Canadian universities are cheap and they're pretty crappy in general. And in America right now, unemployment is less than 4%. In Canada, it's about 7%. Same period of time and everything. There are all these different. And in Canada, the only economy we've got is gold and oil and diamonds. We were just reading about this. Raw resource extraction. And we really do have an aging population. We really are dominated by elderly and retired people.
Because of my degree, I feel like I have to get some further education.
Sure.
So that's why I feel like at this point, being cut off from the Western world it's a great opportunity.
Sure.
I'm very grateful.
Sure.
I love living here with you.
Sure.
It's wonderful.
Yeah.
But
sure,
it feels like a 6-month limbo before we get to the real issue.
That burns at me every day.
Yeah.
That absolutely does. And I felt that way, but I'm a very ambitious person. Again, I was talking about that with a professor today. I talk about that all the time. So no, but for me, there were other ambitions in coming here that I've been cut off from. So real quick, when I first moved here, for one thing, I assumed I'd be able to buy property. I thought I'd be able to open a business. So I thought I could open a vegan restaurant here. Right? Or some other business, right? I thought I could open a hotel here. Some of you guys who know me personally know that, if you're talking to me a year ago, I was talking about opening a hotel in China or elsewhere in Southeast Asia. So there are straight up business ambitions that seem possible here. And I've now found out that's impossible. That's actually not possible to pursue here. But in terms of language work, humanitarian work, and research, I originally signed up to come here for 5 years. We thought we'd do a 3-year contract to kick it off. And then I wasn't just going to be studying Chinese. I would have been studying Chinese and Burmese and Northern Thai languages like Dahong Dai or Thai Nua. These languages that very, very few white men have ever studied or ever spoken, and languages that are engaged in civil wars on the Burmese border, possibly Jingpo, aka Kachin. These are languages very, very few white men have studied and that are really politically interesting, culturally interesting, historically. So for me, there was, in terms of my ambition, when I made the decision to move here, and when I made the decision to buy this iPhone, which is very unlike me, right? I thought I was here for a 5-year bid with at least 3 languages involved, as just mentioned, and a lot of politics and a lot of history and a lot of potential to do humanitarian work and potential for business and so on. And then only after I was committed, after I got here. And I thought about not signing the contract. I thought about walking out. It was basically the day I signed the contract, I found out, no. It's a 10-month gig, and then you go back to Canada, and that's it. That basically none of that was possible. Now, I think I actually made the right choice. Taking the middle path on this, staying for 10 months, for less than a full year. I think I did make the right choice for a bunch of reasons, including the situation my parents were in, the situation my daughter is in. For me, there were other factors, sure. But, I remember when I had only done this job for 3 weeks, it was just burning at me. It was after 3 weeks, it was this isn't, mentally demanding enough. I've got to start studying Mohawk in my spare time. I've got to start studying Iroquois or something. You know what I mean? It was just it wasn't enough for me in terms of my humanitarian ambitions, research ambitions, and so on, because I was here just doing Chinese. But the truth is, as you've seen, Chinese is an incredibly difficult language just to be conversant in. Because I'm not talking about mastering Chinese. I'm never going to speak it like a fluent speaker. But you do need to be forced to take a year and just drill. You know, even when I'm teaching, using the same words again and again and teaching Chinese and so on. It's absolutely what it is. So absolutely what was good for me in terms of my language development and future in those ways. Mm-hmm. And it's, as I say, other factors like my parents and my daughter and stuff. I think it was a good decision in other ways too. But no, it's not. This is not the decision I would have made if I had known that. And yeah, I say that all the time here. I use the Chinese word yi xin. And yixian doesn't really mean ambitious. It means I'm ambitious to a fault. I'm like self-destructively ambitious. And I think that's true of me, although my ambitions have nothing to do with money. But look, I mean, it's great to hear your optimism. But when you said that stuff before, that back in Canada, you can be part of a community, or you can be part of a political movement, or some kind of future in terms of education and career and that kind of stuff. To me, like, you know, that's what I don't feel there's anything like that left behind in Canada. And when you're looking at the map, if you look at Victoria, BC, right across the water is Seattle. You can take a boat, you can take a ferry. They're very, very close together. Seattle and Victoria, BC. And you got an American passport, you got the right to work in the States. I think anyone with a shred of ambition would be in Seattle instead, right? What advantage is there? Now we can go into all the advantages. Canada is not ruled by Donald Trump. Canada is not bombing Syria and Yemen. And there are differences. There are advantages. And in Canada, university tuition is about $5,000, not $50,000. There are differences. There absolutely are. There are advantages Canada has. But in terms of just exactly what you said and how you said it, having a community or being involved in politics or any of those things, when I go back to Canada, the chill of Canada, not just the temperature, but the hollowness of that culture, and just what a dead end it is for anyone with ambitions. That's what I'm going to feel. And I don't know. maybe you'll see the bright side. Maybe you'll change my mind.
Or we can just move to Seattle.
Yeah, or we can move across the water to Seattle. But yeah, babe, I mean,
I was just saying that in reference. I've only lived in one state, like one place.
Yeah.
Generally the same place, within an hour drive. So I was just saying I'm looking forward to actually having like something normal.
Sure. Sure.
Normal to me.
Sure. But I mean, universities, they're not, it's the ultimate joke though. They're really just not set up to help someone in your situation or my situation, even though it's such a common situation. And it's not that bizarre. It's not that odd,
No.
And like it's not like a blame the victim kind of thing. But in the past, I could at least say, well, I'm studying something obscure. I'm studying Laotian. I'm studying Pali. I'm studying Cree or Ojibwe, so I can recognize that what I'm doing is marginal. But now it's Chinese. And the University of Canada, they're just as bad. They're just as incapable. Now that I'm in a mainstream subject, they have professors for and scholarships for that they're supposed to be set up to handle, and everything is just as bad. But to give you one brief example from the States, you already know this. I got one offer to go study at Stanford, California. I once got in touch with University of Hawaii. University of Hawaii is a very famous university in some categories. U of H, right? Not especially for team sports. I think not especially for basketball or football, but they are really famous in some, including linguistics. And University of Hawaii, I said to them, look, this is my background, these are my credentials. If I sign up to do an MA and PhD with you guys, what education are you actually going to provide me with? And they wrote back. They honestly write back and say nothing. You'll get a library card, and you'll do your own research, and you'll teach yourself the language. And, you'll end up with a PhD. And it's going to cost you, like, $150,000. Like, I don't even, but, like, you can look it up. Like, when you add up.
Pathetic.
I know. But that's how it is in a lot of fields of study. You're really just paying for the opportunity to go to the library and educate yourself. And then that is it. You know, there's nothing else. So that's what I say. You look behind these doors. You look, for me, I'm looking at every opportunity, every possibility. And a lot of the time, there's nothing behind that door. The conventional path of education and career has nothing to offer you. And that's what people like you and me, I mean, Melissa is mature for her age. You were looking at all these really technically driven disciplines. You were looking at science-based disciplines and hands-on disciplines and careers with, you know, verifiable skills. I was too. You know, it was partly out of a sense of disgust at what, you know, the arts and humanities, the more creative fields. It was a sense of disgust of what they could and couldn't offer me. Yeah. How dare you refer to De Hong as Limbo?